Yes, and welcome to our Objective 1.2 sample problems video, where Objective 1.2 says I can state the domain and range of a given function. So today we are going to state the domain and range of some given functions. So let's start by looking at these graphical representations of functions. So domain, remember we're looking left to right. So the farthest left this can go is -7. The farthest right it can go, it looks like, is 5. Now notice, hard bracket on -7 because that closed circle, soft bracket on 5 because of that open circle. Now my range is low to high, so how low does this go? -5, so hard bracket, -5. How high does it go? 7. Cool. And again, hard bracket because of the closed circle, soft bracket because of the open circle. All right, let's now look at letter B. So domain is left to right. How far to the left does it go? We have a closed circle at -6, so we'll do hard bracket -6. And we have an open circle at 7. So soft bracket there. Now my range, how low does it go? We got a hard bracket at -4. That's its lowest point. Its highest point is at 8 with this open circle. So we will have an open circle there. Very nice. Let's look at letter C. Okay, so here's a cool one where we have some arrows getting involved. I like that. So my domain is how far to the left I go. It looks like I have a -5. Open circle tells me a soft bracket. And then my arrow goes down and to the right. So that arrow tells us it's going to go that way forever and ever, which means it will always be going to the right, which means that this will go all the way to infinity. Remember, infinity always has a soft bracket. My range is low to high. Well, the lowest point is given by this arrow in that it keeps going. So the lowest value it'll reach is -infinity. The highest value it reaches, however, is in this circle. We have an open circle at 6. So there we go for our range there. Now, okay, so this one kind of looks like a quadratic. So think about our domain for a quadratic function. All right, we're going to the left and right ever. This arrow tells us we're going to continue in this up and to the right and up and to the left pattern. So that means the domain for this one is actually going to be -infinity to infinity. The range, however, is very different because we have a finite lowest point. We have a closed circle at -5, so we'll have hard bracket -5, and however it does go up to infinity, so we will have positive infinity with a soft bracket there. Very cool. Now let's look at, oh sweet, some functions, some equations. Okay, so -2x squared plus 8. So first thing I see here is that this is a quadratic function. I can see that from this x squared right here. What does that tell me? That tells me my domain. The domain for all quadratic functions is -infinity to infinity. So I know that one right off the bat. The range, however, is a little tricky. Now, we haven't really talked about transformations yet, but we should probably know if I have a negative out in front, that means the graph is going to be going down. It will have a maximum value, and that maximum value is this number here, 8. All right? So 8 is the highest point it will reach, and it's going down from there. So that tells me my range is going to be -infinity, because it's going to go all the way down. The highest it reaches is 8, and we'll give it a hard bracket. When we're doing these, we'll always have hard brackets on those transformations. Excellent. Well, that's letter E. Looking at letter F, 3x to the third. Oh, 3x to the third. Okay, so that tells me right away that I am dealing with a cubic function. Now, this is one that we should know. Cubic, domain and range, both of them always -infinity to infinity. Easy peasy. Don't need to think about transformations, nothing like that. If it's cubic or if it's linear, -infinity to infinity for both domain and range. And hey, look what we have here for G. This is a linear function, right? Slope of 1, y-intercept of 6, linear function, domain and range, -infinity to infinity every time. Easy peasy, lemon breezy. Okay, here we go. Letter H, we have an absolute value function. So remember now, our absolute value function makes that V shape that goes on and on forever and ever, going up and to the left and right. Now, we have a positive leading coefficient, which tells me we are indeed going to be opening up. And this transformation here is my minimum value. So that minimum value is going to be at -2. So my domain for all absolute values is always -infinity to infinity because it goes to the left and right forever and ever. However, my range I have to be cautious of. My range, my lowest value is -2, which I get from here. So we'll have hard bracket -2, and then we will go up, up, and away to infinity. All right, very nice. Looking at letter J, the square root of x plus 1 plus 5. Okay, so first of all, square root, by far what I would argue the hardest one, the most difficult one for us to do domain and range because neither of these are going to be -infinity to infinity. So with that being said, let's take a look at how this looks graphically. So here's a representation of the square root of x plus 1 plus 5. So this plus 1 moves it to the left 1, all right, and the plus 5 moves it up 5. So what was at 0, 0 is now left 1 and up 5 to put me right here. So think about my domain and range here. Domain is left to right. My furthest left is -1, and then it goes all the way to positive infinity to the right. My farthest down is 5, and then it goes up to positive infinity from there. So let's go ahead and write that here. So my domain, if we remember, was hard bracket -1 to infinity. My range was 5 to infinity. And, you know, if you need to graph these in order to do the domain and range, that's fine. Feel free to graph all of these, all right? It's great if we can identify it just by looking at the function, but we're going to practice that more throughout the unit. If for now you need to graph, do it. That's fine. All right, last one, letter K. F of x is 5x squared. Okay, quadratic. So think about what that means. A quadratic always has the domain of -infinity to infinity. My range depends on the leading coefficient and my maximum or min value. I don't have a maximum or minimum value, so we can assume that this is 5x squared plus 0. That's going to be my max or min value. And we know it's a minimum because we have a positive leading coefficient. So with that positive leading coefficient, I know my graph is going to be opening up, and its lowest point is going to be at 0, which tells me my range is going to be hard bracket 0 to infinity. Awesome. Hopefully we're feeling really confident with what we have now. Hopefully we're feeling better about domain and range. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, go ahead and check out those practice problems. This is Mr. Carter signing off. I'll see you next time.